we've got Mr. Dakota Moore joining us today, and he puts me to shame on flower arranging. He did this last year, and the arrangements were amazing in what he did. So Dakota works for the Kentucky Horticulture Council. The Kentucky Horticulture Council is actually one of the sponsors of the stage as well. We've got Miss Cindy Benison right here in the front. She's the executive director for that. And Tara made it in. That is, we've got Miss Tara Watkins. She is actually with Harmony Breeding Flowers out of Franklin County, my hometown. Tara and her family just recently hosted the Franklin County Farm City Field Day. And so she also works for the University of Kentucky, and I think kind of on the side of partnering with the Kentucky Horticulture Council. So she does an amazing job, and she's going to join us on stage. I don't think she wants to, but she's going to. I'm going to give you the microphone. I'm going to turn it over also to Dakota, but I'm going to let you tell a little bit about what you do. And Dakota is going to show us how to make arrangements. And like I said, the flowers that he's got is absolutely beautiful. So Dakota, first of all, thank you so much for coming. We really appreciate it. But Tara, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and your operation and what you're going to help out with Dakota today? You're going to arrange the flowers, right?
We leave that to the talented designers.
First, I'm going to get started real quick.
Yes, actually, go ahead.
So you can see I've just got this bowl. It's got a plug in the bottom. You can't see it on the screen, but I've lined it with this this foil. This is greenhouse foil. So if you've ever seen a poinsettia wrapped in this, it's also floral foil. So we use it to line containers that don't hold water. So I don't want this running out wherever I place it. I place it on a wooden table, then it's going to run out and get water everywhere. So this helps keep the water in. And then I'm going to take my floral foam brick down just so it doesn't move anywhere. I don't think it will, but you never know when you're shoving stems in, it might pop out. So I'm just going to tape it. This is just floral tape. I'm going to run it over the top, and it's just pressed down in there. And next, I'm going to start with some of my greenery. So I'm going to build a base of greenery. So that's going to help me hide this foil and this foam so I don't make a mess. And I'm going to use some of Tara's beautiful euphorbias. So this, do you want to tell us about this?
Yeah, so this is called euphorbia, and it's kind of a common name that a lot of people know it by. It's actually called snow on the mountain. So I'm going to walk over here and I'm going to grab a stem of it while Dakota's working. It's just a really cool and a really unique foliage. So as you can see, it's green and white. I know you can't see up close, but it has little small white flowers and little green seed pods. And it kind of just shakes, right? So it gives some dimension and some extra texture and a little bit of a wave to an arrangement. So this is a really unique foliage. If you're growing locally here in the state of Kentucky, it's a summer foliage. So we can only get this in the heat of summer. It loves the heat. It does not like the cold. So this is the only time of year that it blooms. And as growers, if we want a continuous supply of this particular foliage, we have to continuously plant it, because when we cut the stems off of this plant, it's done producing. So it's not something that just keeps regrowing, it's done.
Fun fact about the euphorbia, if the name is familiar to anybody, that's the scientific name. It's also the scientific name of poinsettias. So our Christmas flowers are very closely related, as are a lot of cacti. So pseudo-cacti like candelabra cactus, that's also euphorbia. And you can't see it here, but when I was cutting it was leaking this little white milky substance. It's a latex. And so that's very characteristic of the euphorbia plants. So next I'm going to go in with this springeri asparagus fern. So I actually cut this myself. This is my own plant. So I didn't source these locally, but everything else is purchased from... Yeah, I'm in Kentucky, so I guess it counts. I'm just going to use a few of these pieces to give my arrangement some flow down instead of upward. This is going to be a lower rounded design instead of something tall and big. So something you would put as a centerpiece on a dining room table versus something you would put on a console table in the hallway. So I'm just going to add a few more pieces of this. I've also got some foxtail fern, which is also an asparagus fern, and I'll be using that in a little bit as well. So everything gets a fresh cut before I put it in. Even if it's coming out of the water, I know I still need to get that a fresh cut so that it's starting to pull in more nutrients in the water. Next, I think I'm going to start with some of my bigger base flowers. So for that, I have these marigolds. I know a lot of people don't like the smell of marigolds, but they're a really fun flower. I believe these came from Eden Roots. So these flowers were purchased through the Kentucky Flower Market. And do you want to tell us a little bit about the Kentucky Flower Market?
Yes, I would be happy to tell you about the Kentucky Flower Market. So the Kentucky Flower Market is in its second year of business. It's located just outside Louisville in Simpsonville, which is Shelby County. So what it is a collective of local flower farmers in the central Kentucky area. So if you grow flowers on a semi-commercial scale and you grow things that florists and designers like to use, you can apply to be a part of this collective and you can sell your florals through that collective. Now, who are we selling these florals to? Anybody, really. You can wholesale through the Kentucky Flower Market. So if you have a resale license and you are somebody like a traditional florist, a wedding and event designer, anything of that nature, you can source through the KFM, as we call it, at wholesale pricing. If you do not have a resale license, that's okay. You can still shop through KFM as just a regular customer retail shopper, but you will be paying retail prices, of course. And how we order through KFM, and Dakota, feel free to interject me when you want to add more design tips.
Oh, sure.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm just blocking. So this one's going to be more color block design. So I'm going to have a solid mass of my marigolds, and next we'll probably go in with a zinnia. So this is a different style design instead of mixing. Color blocking is very popular right now. So monochromatic designs and the color block designs are what you're going to see from a lot of top-tier designers that are doing design shows and also high-end design. So I think I'm finished with this orange, but I'll probably come back and grab some more because it's a really beautiful color. It's so bright. I'm sure the people way down the hall can see it up here.
All right, so a little bit more about the KFM. Do we have anybody that is within driving distance here of Shelbyville that would be willing to shop at the KFM in Simpsonville? So how you can order through KFM is you order through the Rooted Farmers website. It's easy, it's free to sign up and make an account, and you can shop from all these different farms who have a product on the website. Or, if you do not want to pre-order, you can go in person every Wednesday from 8:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. The shop is open and it is filled with all kinds of gorgeous blooms from, I think, probably somewhere around 15 different farms in the central Kentucky area every week. And guys, I'm telling you, these are not flowers that you're going to find at Kroger or Walmart or any place like that, Trader Joe's. These are just really unique and really beautiful blooms. So you can buy straight bunches of things, you can buy mixed bouquets, anything your heart desires. It's full and overflowing, and they also do have a few hard goods that are made by some of the local farms, like scented candles, floral cards, some pressed flowers, and different things of that nature. So if you're local to the Kentucky Flower Market, definitely check it out. This is where all this product came from.
So all of these I ordered on Thursday of last week, Thursday and Friday of last week, and so I picked them up. But I saw these marigolds. It's a little different color. It kind of goes between yellow and orange. So I just grabbed these up. These were extras. So if maybe your design changes or the amount you need changes, you can grab those as well. I think they do offer mixed bunches sometimes. So like a farmer's market wrapped bouquet that you would be able to pick up, Saturday at the farmer's market. So I'm just going to tuck a few of these other colored marigolds in here just to give us a pop of this gold color. It's very similar to this orange, but it stands out just a little bit and just enough to be worth adding. And so I tucked some of these zinnias in as well. So this is a Benary's Giant, I think a white, but it tends to go towards green in the middle. So it's multi-use. So if you need something green or you need something white, it goes in between. And this one came from Gardens Unwound. They're in Shelbyville, and I actually got to visit there this spring, and it was just a gorgeous farm to visit. I think I visited 4 of these farms, and I think there's 8 different farms we bought from through this order. So with one visit to the website, I was able to secure 4 different farms. And so that's pretty hard to do any other way than a collective like this. It's the Kentucky Flower Market. It's on Rooted.
The Kentucky Flower Market has a website as well. So if you just put the Kentucky Flower Market into Google, it'll take you to the shops or their website. But from there to actually shop with KFM, it'll redirect you to a site called Rooted Farmers, and that's just a platform that has like the selling mechanism built into it. And you will have to make an account, but it's free and easy, and
it's very easy.
It's very easy. You can use it for years.
But that's not the only way to buy local flowers. So we have a map, and I've got a poster down here. You can scan it with the camera phone, and it's a map, and it will show you 130 flower farms across the state. So you'll be able to find one wherever you live. And these growers are selling at farmers markets. They're selling subscription, like Sharon mentioned. They're selling to florists, so you might be able to purchase them, so many different ways. I am tucking in this celosia. I think you grew this. The variety was
it's called Terracotta Selway. Selway is the series. The color is terracotta.
It's just gorgeous. So celosia, the coxcomb. This is the other variety. So, but nowadays all these varieties, they can be crossed. So they trend from the coxcomb, the big giant one, to a smaller one, to a mix and a spiky.
We actually have 3 generally is what we categorize. We have 3 different kinds of celosia these days. So the coxcomb that he was talking about, have you ever seen the crested celosia? It kind of looks like a brain. That stuff's cool, isn't it? So that's the coxcomb celosia or crested celosia. This right here, the Selway series, this is what we call as wheat type celosia. And then the other one is called a plume type celosia. And they're just larger, plumes. They look very kind of feathery, and they come in a lot of different colors. Celosia is very diverse.
And they hold up really well too. And if you're a gardener and you want some free seed, a lot of times these will drop seed on your table. So I always put paper towels under it to collect them, and then I put them in a little bag. And maybe one day I'll plant them, but I've got them at least, right?
I think I have a solution in my field this year. This is from ones that reseeded in my field.
Yeah, it's very, very good at collections. So some flowers, people try to save them, and some of them aren't ripe, and they're once they've been cut. But these come up pretty well. So next I'm adding some sedum, right? Autumn Joy sedum. So this came from Color Me Mama Flower Farm. They are in Cecilia, Kentucky, which is outside Elizabethtown. So she makes a big old trip up here to deliver, but I think I bought 3 things from her. So I visited her farm last year, and it's pretty amazing. I've never seen such symmetry and careful gardening and planning. It just blew my mind. So I'm tucking those in to give a little pink color on this side. And I'm going to start working with some lemon peach zinnias. So that's going to go on this side to kind of bring more zinnias and give us more of that pink peach color, as well as some yellow. So I've got, I believe they're like a queen lime. Let's see. Queenie lemon peach. They might be in the queen lime family.
They're actually transitioning from calling the Queen series to Queenie now. I don't know why. We're going from Queen to Queenie.
So I love using zinnias, and I know they're very common. Everybody's got them in the backyard. They come up forever and ever. I think we pulled out some landscape fabric at my grandparents' house a few years ago, and it had been put down decades ago, and zinnias came up. So it's a very, very prolific flower, but they're gorgeous in design, and the colors are coming up with these days. I don't know if you can see it on the camera. I don't know where it's at, but it's gorgeous, and there's so many different colors. But this is one thing that florists can't buy wholesale, so that's why the Kentucky Flower Market is important. So florists can buy zinnias through local growers, and pretty large amounts if they need it. But they can't get it through their normal wholesale because they don't ship. There's a lot of flowers that don't ship well. Celosia really doesn't ship too well. The euphorbia doesn't. It's not that it's not offered, but you get it and you're not going to be happy with it. And florists have to guarantee for so many days after they sell it. So if they're going to have it for a couple of days, then they're not going to be happy if it goes down pretty quickly. So I'm just checking a few more of these in. This one is so tiny, but so pretty.
Interconnect me again when you need to. But while he brought it up, let's talk a little bit more in depth about some of the benefits of locally grown flowers. So he just was mentioning how florists and wedding and event designers can get a lot of products through local farms that they cannot get shipped in via an import wholesaler, these zinnias. It's funny how people say that differently, isn't it? He says zinnia, he says zinnias, I always have said zinnias, but same thing. Anyway, zinnias is one of those things that local growers grow and that florists cannot get. So those are some of the perks. We haven't mentioned these little flowers over here yet, but these are dahlias. Is anybody familiar with dahlias? Okay, a few people. If you know dahlias, you probably love them. They're absolutely gorgeous. They come in every size, color, shape. They are beautiful. So dahlias is a huge, huge plus that local growers can grow. They are fresh. They do not ship well. First of all, they tend to have a lower base life than a lot of flowers, but by the time they're going from wherever they came from, they're shipping, they tend to get really smushed and damaged in transport. They have delicate petals, which bruise fairly easily. So it's just a night and day difference when florists and designers get the dahlias that they can buy import versus the dahlias that they can get from local growers. So once a florist or a wedding and event designer experiences local, they typically don't go back because there's really not a reason to.
Yeah, the dahlias, when it can shift, it's laid down in a box, and that's their killer. So these were wrapped up in paper and very delicately placed in a bucket by itself. So there was nothing touching it, nothing going to damage it. This is another one that I've never seen wholesale. So this is mountain mint. I've never grown it myself. I've seen bigger leaf varieties that look like a traditional mint, but I saw this one on the website and I wanted to try it because the leaves reminded me of rosemary. They're very small, and then they have these pretty little blooms. I'm also adding some status. So if you like dried flowers, status is going to dry very nice. It's going to keep the color. Last year I was here and we did a dried wreath, and so I used a lot of status in that, and it's still held up with its color. So I'm tucking these in different places, and you can see I've done it with the zinnias. So I've kind of tucked some in deep, and then I've set some out further ahead of it. So this gives us a depth that tricks the eye, so it makes it seem very full when it really actually isn't, because the dimensions are different. And so I'm putting the status on the outside to give us some color further out, and it's going to make this seem bigger overall. I'm just tucking some around. I tucked the mint in deep, and I also pulled some of it out to see the color of this balloon. I'm going to tuck a few more.
The mint smells very good up here.
Yeah, and it's the marigolds have a nice little smell, and then the mint has a nice smell. None of it is overpowering, which people often worry about when they're using flowers that smell, but those are usually my favorite. I love using stock. That's another one. It's out of season right now, but it's my favorite cut flower, and it's got a wonderful smell. But that's another one that I think looks better from the local growers than from wholesale. You can get pretty good wholesale, but nothing beats the local. And also, when you learn more about the flowers and what it takes to grow them, you have a deeper appreciation. So the stock is one that, when you plant a seed, you get one flower, just like this. And so every one was hand planted, and that's one flower. So that's why I've always appreciated stock, especially when it's locally grown, because that's a lot of dedication.
It is. So there's there's several flowers that we grow that we call them one and dones. And so how I mentioned earlier that euphorbia snow on the mountain over there is one plant. Once you cut the branches off, that's all you get from that plant in that particular planting. So the stalk is the same way. Sunflowers, there are branching types of sunflowers that you can cut from and they will regrow, but typically the sunflowers that are grown to be used in floral design are one and done. So one cut, and that's all you get from that plant.
So now I'm going to use the dahlias. I saved these for last just because I don't want to damage them. I'm not done, but I'm going to put them in so we can make sure we're not missing any holes. And I'm going to place these kind of in the line with these yellow to peach zinnias, if I can find a place to put it. When you start sticking stems in the foam, then you cover your surface area. And it's a little hard to find in this corner. We don't want to damage anything else. Maybe we'll find something. There we go. If you'll hold watch the head. This is where I wanted it to be, so I'm going to find where I need to place it, but this is going to stay where I want it. I'm not going to search using the stem and then bend it over where I want it. I'm holding it where I want it, and it'll find a spot to go. I just got to have a little patience and a little faith. But this yellow is such a pretty little top. I'm just going to add one more, and then I'm going to add some echinacea pods. So I saw these and I immediately wanted them, and then I read the description on the website and I wanted them even more. So she said that the bugs got to the petals, so she just pulled all the petals off. And you still have this color. This one's like orange, this one's more yellow, but they were from a pink flower. So if these had the petals, I would still have the orange color and I'd have the pink, but I've still got the yellow and the orange. So the versatility of these blooms is a big selling point, especially if you want something different or something cool.
I've had people ask me before, what's one of the hardest things or the biggest challenges growing flowers, and I always say Mother Nature, and that can be weather, that can be bugs. I have an insane amount of grasshoppers on my farm, so I am always battling grasshoppers. And I actually talked to another grower earlier today, and she doesn't have any grasshoppers. It's wild. We live in the same county. So there's always something going on, and these soft petals, like these echinacea, also known as coneflower, that they have those soft petals, the bugs just love to eat them. It's a snack, it's good, it's a buffet, and so repurposing these centers, these pods, is a way to still have useful product even when the bugs get to your flowers.
So I mentioned it before, but I'm going to come in with the foxtail fern. This is one of my favorites to use. This is something that florists can get pretty easily, but you usually get the very straight stems. And that's another plus with the local flowers. You might get, a really bent stem, but there's a way to use it if you just think about it. So this one's curved, and I want it to curve down, so if it's perfect right there. Same thing with these. You'll see what the grower that grows for a wholesaler, in South America or out in California, they're going to throw away any of these bent ones. Any that have a little imperfection, they're going to get rid of, and local growers can't afford to do that. So we have to show how beautiful they can be so that people aren't afraid of it. I think I've used almost everything. Now I'm going to get funky if I can. We're going to try to use this, the horsetail, or I don't know what some people call it, bull brush. So I just bent it. I was going to trying to loop it. So I'm going to try to see if I can put it in here and bend it where it's not going to break to give me a little different shape.
Yes. So Cindy up here asked me to talk about annuals versus perennials. So there is definitely a use for both annuals and perennials in the cut flower industry. I'd say with our cut flower growers in Kentucky, we have a nice mix of people who have both annuals and perennials on their farm. Typically, our newer growers start with annuals because pretty much everything you see here is an annual, except for the echinacea.
Sedum.
The sedum is a perennial. Mountain mint is technically a perennial. The fern, I think that's about all that's a perennial. But most of the flowers that you see in this arrangement, the focal flowers is what we call them, like the dahlias, the marigolds, the zinnias, those are all annuals. And so every year those are replanted from seed. Now perennials, you can establish on your farm and keep cutting from them year after year, obviously. The good and really unique thing about perennials is a lot of our growers will try to grow things that have both a flower use, they might have a small bloom season, but then they can also be used for foliage. And there's always a shortage of foliage compared to flowers in the local flower world.
So now I'm just tucking in a few kiwi branches. So I don't think these were grown locally. I can't remember. I've had them a very long time. Florists and floral designers will reuse the stuff we can. So I've had these a very long time. But kiwi does grow in Kentucky. There are some growers growing hardy kiwis. So that's a perennial as well. And I'm just tucking a few of these in to give it a different wild look. And I think we're done. Don't see any holes. So I'm going to step back. You always step back and spin it to see if you can see any holes, if I can see my foam or any of the tape I used. I see a little bit, and I think I'll just fill it in with this marigold greenery since it's here and would otherwise go in the trash. So I will just tuck those in, and they've got little tiny blooms that wanted to bloom before they got cut. So we'll give them a second life. I think that's it. And if anybody has any questions, I'd be willing to answer them.
Are there any questions? Is anybody a consumer of local flowers here? Okay, awesome. How do you choose to buy your local flowers? A farm in Harrodsburg? Awesome. Subscription? Farmers market? Farmers market? Awesome. An Amish farm in Litchfield? Awesome. She grows her own, so she is a but also visits the farmer's market. Is there anybody here who is a member of a local flower farm subscription service?
No, well, we can find one if you're interested. It might be a little too late this year to find one, but we can get you connected with one. I've got the map on the poster over here. You just scan that with your phone, and you can see 130 different flower farms here in the state. And there's more than that. Those are just the ones we connect with. If anybody knows any farmers that want to be connected with us, we can get them put on the map as well. Yeah. So aftercare. So once I've made this, this is just in the floral foam, so there's no deep water. So I'm going to have to add water to this. I did put that floral foil liner in there, so that's going to hold any water. So as long as I'm not putting massive amounts in there, it should be good. So I would just maybe scoot aside a few blooms and make sure I'm dumping it down in there on the foam, not on the flowers. And I'd add a little floral food to it just to keep them looking fresh and bright. You can save those packets when you buy flowers. You're usually given a couple. You can also order a little tub. That's what I've done, is order a little tub from Amazon or some other hobby store would have them. But if this were a vase, I'd want to change the water daily. This would be a little hard to do, to change the water, but it's going to soak up most of it anyway because it's just a brick of the full foam.
Most of our consumers who purchase local flowers always brag a minimum of 7 days vase life. And really, I've heard of customers saying, my flowers lasted 2 or 3 weeks. It was amazing. And it really is a huge difference. The freshness and just even the types of flowers that can be grown that do have a longer vase life versus things that you could purchase at the grocery store. And so like Dakota said, one of the best things that you can do for your flowers is to give them clean water. If you don't want to drink that water in the vase, they don't want to either. So give those flowers clean water. If you can remember to do it every day, that's ideal, but every other day is good too. When you give them fresh water, if you want to get really into it, another thing that you can do to help them is to give the flowers just a fresh snip at the bottom. Just cut off a little bitty bit of stem at the bottom. When we cut and then let those flowers sit, they start to heal over. And when we give them a fresh cut, it allows them to re-uptake water at a better efficiency. So that's probably our biggest tip for keeping those flowers freshest. The other big thing that you want to not do, people want to sit them in a windowsill because they look so pretty when the sun's coming in and whatnot. But that's actually not the best thing for them. Keep them out of direct sunlight, especially magnified sunlight at a window like that, and keep them out of a direct airflow, such as like right under a fan or an air conditioning vent or something of that nature. But adding flower food is also a good option as well. Yeah, and like she said, cut the stems if you can. That's a base. So the foam, I don't want to pull these out because I've made a hole that's holding that in there. If I pull it out, I can't put it back in. I'm going to have to push it in a little further, and we don't want to do that. So when you choose foam, that's one of the drawbacks. People do have alternatives to the foam, so people use chicken wire instead. I'll actually be using chicken wire, and what we do on Saturday, we'll be back here at 7 p.m. on Saturday, so we're going to use chicken wire in that. There's a lot of other different alternatives people are using, and now there's biodegradable foam that has just come out, so I'm looking forward to getting my hands on that. Floral frogs.
Floral frogs. Yeah, we might be using a floral frog on Saturday as well. We're going to do a couple different small ones on Saturday to show variety, but I'm going to be using what's left over, so it'll still be just as pretty. Any other questions? I'd love to answer anything. Maybe we'll bring it down to the table and everybody can have a look at it and see up close if they've got questions about it.